Josh and Frankie. What a couple of dumb shits. Hello, Primates! You found Primus Tracks. Congratulations. There are so many places to find Primus Tracks that I will not list them here. Instead, I'm just going to introduce myself. I am Josh. He is all the way over there at the Primus Tracks Towers in Mexico City. From the 39th floor, it's Frankie Bearstein.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Frankie, it's our first real episode of 2025. We made it.
My mind is still blown after Claypool Gold.
Yes, lots of dendrites and synapses need to be repaired. They're slowly making their way by themselves. Stay hydrated. It was something else. So today on Primus Tracks, we're talking about Ignorance is Bliss. We've made it to the final track of Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains, and we need help. Because this album ends with such a bang, with such fireworks, with such panache, that I had to bring in a ringer, Frankie. His name is Peat. He's in a band called You Bred Raptors? And he's here to talk about Ignorance is Bliss with us. Peat, welcome to Primus Tracks.
Hello. This is Pete from Queens.
Pete from Queens. You're on the air. Turn down your radio.
Thank you for saying the band name correctly. That's appreciated. We're currently going through this thing where this some masshole from Boston has been using our band name for the last 10 years, and we've had to send like cease and desist letters and threaten lawsuits.
Wow.
And his whole delineation is that he's like, well, I don't have the question mark.
Gee whiz.
Cue Law and Order, done. He's like, that's it, case closed,
Can't sue me now.
Next on the docket. So when you say the band name correctly, it's really appreciated because it's legally us. We have a trademark for it. So it's been a real fucking hassle behind the scenes dealing with this guy. But anyway,
that's a huge
bummer. That out of the way. I'm really glad I'm finally on this Primus podcast. How long have we been cooking this up?
The Bernie Brains record took some time, and I know we had arranged for this track quite some time before we even got to this record. We may have been in contact 9 to 10 months ago, if not more.
It was a fetus's lifetime ago that I think we originally started talking. And just stop me if you guys have other shit to get to. But I think you were on the first Claypool solo album. Well, not the first one, but the what's it called?
Oh, probably Purple Onion.
And I was like, oh, great. I really want to do like Barrington Hall or Up on the Roof. And you're like, they're both taken. And I was like, damn it. And you're like, I was like, what's the next album? And you're like, Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains. And I'm like, oh no, that's my least favorite Claypool album. But I was like, oh, but I really like the one song on there, and I really didn't remember that it was the last song. So you're like, oh yeah, I guess we'll see you sometime in 2025, and and then you whisked out of my life until now.
And then delayed gratification finally arrived.
We edged so hard for this episode for everybody.
Yeah, I almost really forgot that I was around. There. And now I can achieve that.
No, what's really saying is I had 10 months to prepare for this, and I really only remembered like this week.
This afternoon, yeah. Nothing like a last-minute job. Actually, Pete, I wanted to ask you, what is... so you, obviously you're a gigging musician. You've got a great band with a great name. What was your path to Primus and Les Claypool, and what's your musical background in general?
So I am a bass player. I'm in a band called You Bred Raptors. And it's with 8-string bass, cello, and drums. So there's no guitar, there's no dumb vocals. I've been endorsed with Conklin Guitars since 2013. They built me my bass. But before that, I was signed to a record label in 2003 as a solo bass player. So around that time, I was in high school. I knew I was kind of like taking bass and being in a band like just way more seriously than all the people that I was in bands with. And that's like no shade on them. Like they were like doing teenager stuff, you know, rites of passage. They were like finding out about themselves. And I was like, guys, it's Tuesday. We have to practice. It's really important. So I just knew that this was going to be my life. And I knew I was taking the bass. Just, I was like a different approach to it. I had never taken bass lessons. So I just kind of like taught myself. Oh, wow. And then I started doing weird stuff. And you start doing weird stuff on the bass, it is legally a requirement that you like Les Claypool and you like Primus. Yeah. But I think my friend had the Brown album in his car, and he asked if I knew Primus, and I'd heard the name, and I was like, oh, I think so. I don't know. And he's like, listen to this. It was like the Chuck Berry scene in Back to the Future, and he played Shake Hands with Beef. And I was like, oh, I'm starting to understand, you know. But my first immersion with Primus was actually earlier. I remember my dad bought us the pay-per-view of Woodstock 1994, right?
Oh, nice.
And I was waiting to see my favorite band, Aerosmith. Because
we all make mistakes.
And I was like so into Aerosmith because I was like, this is what rock and roll is all about. and then I was like, oh, what is this stupid band playing? Shut up. I want to see Aerosmith. And that was Primus. So like, I think about that and I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I have grown a little bit as a musician. So when I first started getting into Primus, I was like, oh, this is everything. And I know, and I really apologize to my friends. I listened to them incessantly. I was so obsessed. Nothing else made sense. I only wanted to listen to this. And so, of course, you know, you find Sausage and you find the Holy Mackerel. Like you find all of Claypool's other stuff. And by the time I was like getting super into them, they broke up like after Any Pop. So and then, you know, my friends got into this hippy dippy jam band stuff in the early aughts. So we started going to Gathering the Vibes and Bonnaroo and all that. So like that's where I saw a lot of like the Frog Brigade basically. Yeah. So and that was like the apex of it. I love the evolution of Les Claypool. I love where he started. I love that he has not rested on his laurels. Yeah. And now the fact that they just lost a drummer, they're like, we're still going to keep going. You know, like we're going to, you know, like good on them. I know how hard it is to keep a fucking drummer. They're the worst.
Well, you certainly have the Primus Claypool street cred based on that background. So you've got that extensive knowledge. You know what's going on.
I have the secret handshake, of course. Yeah. Have you guys read his book? Like, are you that nerdy that you read of Whales and Woe? Yeah, like same. I couldn't get out of it for a while. You know?
Sure. Yeah. Like
I watched his fishing special too, and I was like, I don't give a fuck about fishing. This is interesting.
I am actively searching for a Russian version of that book.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We Frankie and I definitely both rabbit holed it and in a way never left.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we have a bunch I can tell the people like when I'm playing at a festival or something, the dudes who are just like glued in front of me and they're just staring at my pedal board and they're just waiting.
Yes.
And I know it's coming. They're just gonna ask me all these tech questions as soon as I start packing up about all the intricacies of my pedal board.
That's my favorite, the pedal board guys. They're the best. They buy
merch and I love them for it.
Yeah, like at least buy a t-shirt, then I'll tell you about my setup, right?
For sure.
I saw Michael Manring not long ago play a gig. Oh, really?
I love him. I met him like 3 times. He's like the kindest man ever.
Yes, sweetest guy. Same thing. There was a short intermission and half a dozen dudes were just standing around his pedals and setup, and then we're quizzing him afterwards.
Well, he's got that Zahn bass. I mean, I'm not saying he's asking for it by the way he's dressed, but like that bass is like ridiculous looking, you know. It's got all the drop pegs and stuff. Oh, and hip shot tuners. Look at you guys just learned that last week. Now you're fucking bass players.
Basically. Yeah, right. We know the lingo. We do have some miscellaneous debris, and Frankie's going to take it away. Big news.
This is a mystery that had been lingering on since 2021 when we recorded our episode on Camelback Cinema. So that's a full 5-year run for this mystery. And the mystery in question was, what did Camelback Cinema actually sound like live?
Right.
The song was performed, we don't know exactly how many times. It was very rare. We know that at least it was performed twice. In Salt Lake City on Valentine's Day 1998, and at Bottom of the Hill in San Francisco on September 22nd, 1997. This Bottom of the Hill concert is of particular importance because it was the first ever live performance by Beanpole. They were the opening act, and then Primus came on, and a review mentioned, there were actually a couple of reviews on 2 different websites that both mentioned Camelback Cinema being part of the set list. So that confirmed that the song was performed at this show. It's also of particular relevance because this show was the first time they ever performed the thing that should not be live. There are so many interesting and unique things about this show that Josh and I actually decided that this is going to be our next LSD. So we're going to go deeper into this show later on. But for now, what I can tell you is that just a few nights ago, thanks to our good friend Carl, whom got in touch with the person who ran this bootleg website, where they wrote all kinds of memories about a ton of shows, he reached out to the guy, and believe it or not, the guy was kind enough to share his recording with Carl. So after 5 years of wandering, we finally got the opportunity to listen to Camelback Cinema live.
Yes.
One of the rarest Primus songs performed live ever. So here it is for you guys, the world premiere of Camelback Cinema live. Let's hear just a little sample because this is a revelation.
Yeah. Pete, gird thyself.
Yes. I'm strapped in. I'm ready.
Okay. Not the greatest recording quality, but there's an idea of Camelback Cinema live. It's funny because at the time, Brown Album wasn't well received in general, but 20, 30, almost 30 years on, I'm thinking, man alive, I would have loved to be at that show, you know? And
they performed a ton of Brown songs, which would get subsequently dropped.
Yeah.
And the set list would have just, you know, the main singles. So it's a really special show, and it's such a revelation to listen to this live performance. Thank goodness that guy was recording that night.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why they didn't play that song that much?
We don't know.
You'll find out in 5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
When we do our maybe in 2 years, when we do our Brown Album 30th anniversary spectacular, we'll spectacular. Excuse me. Yeah, we'll get the inside scoop on why Camelback Cinema was not, you know, bigger than Thriller or something like that.
So it's so funny because that has just been like pervasive in the music world. Everybody says the Brown Album sounds like shit. I mean, my producer, when I first got signed and we were looking for somebody to like master the album, we went with John Golden, who mastered Tales from the Punch Bowl.
Oh, okay.
Because like we wanted his name, I wanted that sound kind of thing. And I was thinking of like, oh, which Primus album? And then my producer was like, you know, it's called the Brown Album for a reason because it sounds like shit. And I was like, then this was pre Saint Anger. So like that just took it to like a new level. You know, so I thought it's supposed to sound kind of gross. I thought I never got the hate for the production on the album, but like I'm also not like an audio engineer. I don't know if you guys got the scoop about like why they went. I don't know if they went with somebody else or they tried to do something just completely different.
They wanted to do this, so Les picked up a bunch of analog recording gear because they had done the previous album on digital, and they went back to all this analog stuff and just turned everything up and blew it all out and liked the sound and went with it.
Well, mission accomplished. I mean, it's because there's like Over the Falls, Kalamazoo, like those are some of my favorite songs from that album, and so I think Tales definitely sounds more polished, but I like the grit of the Brown album just like so much more.
You bet.
But I thought like Pork Soda also sounded pretty grimy and gross, but nobody gives that album shit, you know?
That one's interesting because they recorded it at Ultrasound in a rehearsal space on their live rig, so that also was unique as far as their approach. So
we're definitely going to get, because Ignorance is Bliss, like this one, I mean, I hadn't listened to this album in a long time, and it definitely seemed like, oh god, this is like one step up from just like a bunch of dudes jamming. Like there seemed semblance of songs, but like I mean, as a musician, I could definitely hear when they're just kind of making something up.
Sure, yeah.
Time, you know,
and that's a lot of this record, right? This
I was surprised how loosey goosey most of this was, but that was kind of the point too. So
right. Yeah, they were just riding that wave of spontaneity, just pressing record and going for it. And because that had been the conceit of the band, even. So
yeah, if you look up like their early set list, it's just like jam, 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 Bernie solo jam, jam. So I'm just like, oh, okay.
So yeah, let's talk Ignorance is Bliss, the final track on this record. Checks in at 4 minutes, 16 seconds. Frankie, what do we know about it?
One of the rarer tracks on the album during the tour, not as rare as that lone Jackalope performance, but Ignorance is Bliss was pretty rare in that it was only performed 3 times during the entire Bucket of Bernie Brains tour, and they stuck to the album version. They didn't jam or do anything different with it. However, the 3 performances are pretty compelling, as you're going to hear in our live samples tonight. Who knows why they didn't perform it more often, because it's a really great song, but they did have a lot of material to pull from besides the album. You know, they were jamming out, they were doing covers, so I guess they just didn't want to visit this track too often. Maybe they didn't enjoy performing it live.
Pete, I'm curious your general thoughts on this track. This is the one you chose, and and waited so long to talk about it.
I don't get it. I don't get why they didn't play the song. Like, I've been in a band, and I get it. Like, once you're done with an album, you're like, the song just didn't make you feel anything. But like, I like went through all the set lists because I was like, I don't understand, because I was trying to find a live version so I could like help me play it. And you're right. I only saw it. It was on 2 set lists in Michigan and in Asheville.
And Royal Oak.
Okay, it was okay. Royal Oak. It's such a good narrative song, but it also lends itself to being a jam, because the whole thing is just a walk down. It's all in G. It's in G minor, so it's like this be very easy to kind of jam to, and it's got a great sense of finality to it, but like. All their, they ended with Junior for most of the tour, and okay, I'll be honest, I'm not a big jam band fan. Yeah. I'm not. Like my band plays festivals. We keep getting sucked into this world. I don't think we're a jam band, but I can't help where we're wanted or where the money is.
Right.
So a lot of this album, and I say it with love, is some noodly nonsense. I enjoy it for what it is, but the reason I picked this song was because it actually has a good narrative. It's cohesive. The song kind of coalesces together, and it feels like one complete thought. And that's kind of how I try to write. And there's a time and a place for jamming, but like sometimes it's too much. But I'm definitely in the minority when I say that, like at a festival. So
sure, yeah,
tarred and feathered.
I think what attracts me to this song as well, because it was a favorite of mine upon release, when I ran out and picked up the CD right away and ran back to my room and played it a bunch of times. This one certainly stood out for many of the qualities that you've named. And I think it was because I was following Les Claypool into the jam world, and I'd heard the Frog Brigade live CDs, and I'd heard his first solo record, and I'd heard what he was doing with Primus when Primus reformed in 2003, and they started stretching things out and jamming things out.
Yep.
So it wasn't entirely new. Jammy stuff still wasn't my favorite because I was coming from a world of musical structure and composition. It wasn't my favorite, but I wasn't completely gobsmacked by this record. But still, this one, this track stood out because it felt like this is the old stuff here. This is like putting a song together and knocking it out, and
I definitely.
It's got to be said that as free form as it may sound to you, or as loose as it may sound, it's actually much more cohesive than what you would expect based on their 2002 performances, which were just
I bet
straight out jamming, no songs.
Yes, you have it's like four very distinct people, and and because Claypool and Brain had a history, and then when they brought Buckethead on tour, it was fine. But it like make it be known, like, and it's a strength. I'm saying, but you will always be able to know Buckethead. At least, like in this song, like the shredding and stuff, it's very obviously Buckethead.
Yeah.
Some of the crazy keyboard stuff is very obviously Bernie. You know, the whole debate of like who's better as far as Brain or Tim, like they're just so different. I don't like to compare them, but like I love Brain for what he does, and like this album and this band was like kind of perfect for him. So I appreciate what it is, and if you're going into like I'm gonna listen to this jam band that actually has some songs, like this is kind of a really good album to start because it's kind of the best of both worlds. Where I think Oysterhead is a little more goofy, and you're gonna get turned off by a lot of like the silliness that like Trey would kind of bring.
Okay, yeah.
And the Bernie Brains album is also peculiar in the sense that Les takes a backseat quite often, more so than in any other record, because you have Bernie, who is a frontman, and Buckethead, who is also a frontman. So it's interesting to hear Les, letting these other musicians shine on the record.
I always thought that was his strength. Like I liked Primus most of all because he kind of bounced off Tim and Lur, and then when he was on his solo stuff, I was like, it was a little too lessy for me. So that's why I liked seeing Primus. But then when I saw him over the years, sometimes it kind of felt like he was on autopilot, especially for like that Frizzle Fry tour and that the Sailing the Seas of Cheese tour. Like it was still good, but it was like I really wish I would have seen Primus like 1991 in San Francisco at some like Amoeba Music or something like that. Would have been.
Yeah, so we're seeing him really stretch out here in the early aughts, which is where we've been stuck for a while because there's so many records and things going on in the early aughts in the Claypool world.
You guys are like new metal. You're just going to be stuck there forever.
This one with the structure, I really appreciate it because it does feel like, as you said, a cohesive song. We kind of go between the A and B parts. We get legit verses, and then there's an interlude, and then there's a guitar solo, and then it gets real serious in the last minute or so. And I just love that it has that structure to it after a record mostly of things that were sourced from spontaneous jams and maintain a lot of that spirit, which is totally fine with me because in rediscovering this album for these episodes, I'm finding a lot more that I like now than maybe I liked then. And so that's really helpful for me. It's an ebb and flow. Like I get bored of this stuff sometimes. There was a long stretch where I didn't listen to any Claypool or Primus. I was listening to other stuff. So to come back to it is great. I'm curious what you're hearing in this first part here, Pete. I want to play just the intro. Tell us what you're hearing and what jumps out at you and just what feels good, especially as a bass player. Like, what are you digging into here in the first few seconds? So just in that intro, you said a word earlier. You said finality. Does that not sound like the opening of an album closer to you? You know,
it's marchy. It's good. So Claypool starts. I was gonna demonstrate this with my bass, but nobody can hear it. He's got a 6-string fretless, and he's using a bow. So it's definitely one. I think it's one of his custom instruments that I haven't seen anybody else have. That's what he starts with. Brain starts with like this nice marchy beat. I don't hear Bernie in there at all. And then once Buckethead kind of pops in, it's just to accent this like walk down of like of G to F to D sharp to E. So like I don't know how to read music, so this is as much as theory as you're getting from me. So
that's fine. Yeah, absolutely fine.
Down G to F.
You said the letter names for the notes. You know more than most people.
Hey. Amadeus over here. You're welcome.
Frankie will be your Salieri.
Okay. I bet, dude. I'm gonna fart when I'm done this song, and it's gonna be.
So this it sets the table nicely, and then when they at about the 48-second mark, they really kick it in with that up tempo, and Les is just kind of playing just a little bit of a loop there to a degree, but we kind of get the gallop. I get the gallop.
The gallop comes when he starts. So like if for recording purposes, he would be switching to a bass. He'd be switching to a 6-string fretless electric bass as opposed to a stand-up that he was on. Yeah. So he's doing the Tom of the Cat machine gun slapping thing, and it's very specifically his slapping technique. It's and but he's really only harping on the G. He's just constantly doing that. And then when the verse kicks in, then it's the walk down, and it's basically the same walk down throughout the entire song. Yeah. So again, like it just kind of goes to show you that you can take one simple idea, because I have this problem of constantly making things too complicated, too many fucking parts, and like whereas one part that's just simple 4-chord walk down, you can do so much with.
Yeah, and I think that's a hallmark of Les and Primus. They have plenty of tunes where they're really ambitious with what they're doing, but they're more than content to find something they like and write it for 4.5 minutes sometimes.
Yep.
And just find those nooks and crannies, I suppose.
For sure.
Yeah. So it really kicks in right around the 48-second mark. We get a verse, and then we come back to that A part, I suppose, and then it kicks up again. Then he sneaks in even a little bit of singing. I'll see you on the other side. That part, just prior to the guitar solo. So there's, he even sings a bit, and then badass guitar solo. And then I wrote down at the 3-minute and 4-second mark, I wrote down in my notes, that's when it gets serious. Like they mean business. And
it's a different chord. It's not a key change, but like that's when Bernie kind of like pops up out of nowhere. Because before he's just kind of laying beds and he's laying tones. And now he just kind of is like, they just like released him at a rodeo and like, go do your Bernie thing. So.
Oh, that's such a great comparison. Yeah. Like the door opens and out comes Bernie bucking like crazy. And Les loves to tell the story that he doesn't remember what song it was, but for this record, they queued it up and they said, okay, Bernie, play a solo here. And Bernie said, I can only do one take, my arthritis. And they were like, well, just let it go. And they pressed record, and Bernie played his solo, and Les remembers just looking at Buckethead and just going, holy shit. And I wonder if it's this part where Bernie plays over the last few seconds.
Why not? It would be. I would think that they would record this album straight through as well. Like if there was ever an album that like was recorded chronologically, it might be this one, So this could have been their final take.
Oh, that's an interesting idea too, because I don't know how that workflow goes in general, but most records are not recorded chronologically, but I do wonder if this one was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they are using anything kind of analog, it seems like because there's so many, I wouldn't say mistakes, but there's so many different parts, and especially when that narrative comes in, that part that he's using a bow. There's so many times where I can hear him not mess up, but he didn't mean to go here and he's staying here just to
Yeah.
kind of see where it goes, and like it was not meant to happen, and they're just going to go with it. So it does seem like they said, let's record 3 takes maximum, straight through, no click tracks, and we're just going to kind of take the best take. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Like mistakes, warts and all.
Yeah.
That's what makes a great album. And like, I would much rather have some of our mistakes in the album than like spending fucking years trying to make it quote unquote perfect.
You're probably not far off, given what we know about the recording of this album, because they knocked it out somewhere between 5 days and 2 weeks.
Yeah, that Primus tracks right there.
Yeah, warts and all for sure. Especially when he's bowing something. There's a lot of sour notes that made it to record when Les is bowing stuff, and I don't really care. I think it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, because like they brought the Whamola out on this tour, like it's really just for show at that point. But there's so many bad notes when he plays the Whamola, and I don't know. This is supposed to be fun. I kind of try to get into the psyche. Like, this is after Primus. Primus kind of broke up because like things were not as fun, and so he just kind of wanted to do something completely different. And you don't become a better musician unless you play with a lot of people. And that guy took it to the extreme. He played with fucking everybody. And that gives you two a job.
I do want to play just that part where it really kicks in the first minute here. Brain's playing something fairly straight ahead, but I just want to play a little bit of it. I have a question for you about Brain. So first things first, Bernie just sustaining that note is so glorious to me. I love that.
Dude, that's when the song calls for it, it serves the song. That's the best part. And Brain is doing like kind of a generic jam band beat here, but fuck, does it work? Because Claypool is he's just harping on one note, really, with a lot of galloping stuff in the middle. So it's just like, the song is getting ready to happen to you, whether you like it or not, and everybody's doing their part.
Yeah. My question is, you hear, you have, you being a Primus veteran, hearing the Brown album early on and being exposed to Brain and knowing his power. And then you hear Brain kick into a beat like this. I mean, you as a bass player, I just wonder what's going through your mind thinking, oh shit, like I'll play with this guy right now, or I don't know.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I would be scared to play with a Brain. I'd be definitely scared to play with her because like, he does a lot of really weird time signature stuff that like, I'm not great with, but like you have a beat like that, like a very rolling beat that's just constantly going. Like, you have to kind of do something percussive the way Les is doing to kind of to accent and kind of complement what he's doing, especially with the kick drum, because it's just kind of endless. And I would, if I was in this situation, and nobody wants me there, but if somebody just started playing that beat, I would definitely just try to find the one.
Yeah.
If I try to find one note, and then if I had other people around, I would definitely try to find something that I could go back and forth to, 2 chords, maybe 4, as long as everybody's kind of on the same page. And that's definitely what the song structure in here is. But that just kind of goes to show like how great these guys are, that they can make something that interesting without sounding repetitive.
Oh, that's a great point. I want to move forward to the. I just want to play the guitar solo because it sounds awesome. But that's.
I'd love to see you play the guitar solo.
All right, be right back. Anytime Bucket lets it rip, is and he does so often. But when he does in this Bernie Brains context, it's kind of a treat because he only does it a couple of times on the album where he really lets go, and it's pretty much bookends. It's the first track and the last track. big bombastic solos. I just wanted to play it because it's only 30 seconds long, and it sounds cool. That's not like Buckethead going off the deep end. It's actually a fairly tasteful solo, and it just seems to fit so well.
So it's very quintessential Buckethead. It's got sweeps, it's got shredding, and it's got the kill switch. And I think you guys said that maybe it was last week on 48 Hours to Go. You're like, he hit all the Buckethead bullet points in one solo, and that's fine because like you're right. You gotta bring it home for this final one, and like you want to go out memorably. And he's just shredding. There was a part in there I have in my notes, like I think he like drops out completely, and then he pops back up at 3:43 in the song, and it sounds like his cord got like pulled out of his guitar, and then he like plugged it back in. That's like, to me, that's what it sounds like.
Ooh,
he completely drops out for about almost 10 seconds, and then he just pops back in. And I was like, oh, okay, there you are again, Mr. Head.
Welcome back, Bucket. Yeah. In the part I just played, I'd forgotten that Les, near the end, the last few bars, does that rubber band sound. And then Bernie, I forgot that Bernie doubled it. It sounds so great.
I wonder if they play that. That sounds like something that these two seasoned musicians hear one person doing and can immediately mimic it. And that's just like, that's what you want. That's what you want when like you jam for so long. It's just to kind of be that in tune with somebody else that you're playing alongside, you know? So it looks like you guys planned this all along when it's really just totally off the cuff.
Yeah. That's that communication conversation that Les is always harping on when he's playing with people that he really appreciates. And he must have a great connection with those guys.
It's so different now because like there's a lot of these jam bands, and this is like no tea, no shade, but like I don't know if this has come up before, but like new jam bands, like they have microphones and they have in-ear monitors and they have click tracks and they can talk to each other like in a microphone that only they can hear. And that's so it's almost like this cheat sheet where they're like, okay, we're going back to the thing, like, you know, like it does make it sound great to the audience who can't tell the difference, but I know back then they weren't doing that. This was completely, you know, absent of any kind of technology that would allow them to do that. But
yes, they're working without a net all the time.
They are, yes.
100%.
Stupid acrobats. And then, I was thinking how hilarious it would be if you guys started a Buckethead podcast and then you would be doing it for 60 years.
I would, yes, from my deathbed. I've made it to album 243. There's 700 more to go. I'm dead now. Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you bring that up. Because it becomes it becomes less musical and more theatrical. And it's you know, you're doing it for your audience, but the audience is going to eat it up. But I think there's something obviously more organic, but just something more intriguing and inspiring to me as somebody in the audience going, these guys are up here playing this stuff and just talking to each other without words, and anything can happen because of it. You know, There's no plan. And I think that's my main takeaway from Bernie Brains is that they were doing this and with absolutely no safety net, and it worked out really well.
It did work out well. And I mean, this is jumping ahead, but do you think they'll ever do something like it, like a reunion thing?
I don't think it'll happen without Bernie.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought too.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's like 400 members of parliament that you could probably pull from as well, you know, just saying.
There's a lot of keyboard players who have graced that stage.
Yeah.
There's somebody, one of those guys. Let's see. Oh, we have to play Frankie's favorite part, which is
the catharsis.
Okay. Which is
I think this is my favorite part of the song is the climax, and it's a really, really compelling way to close a track.
Yeah, and this is the part that I labeled "They Mean Business," and you don't get this a lot unless solo work, where they just really let it go like this and get heavy. I'm gonna play it actually from this time code, and then I wanna let it go and hear if the spot where Bucket's guitar goes away.
Okay, yeah.
Catharsis time, Frankie. Start punching the air and stuff. Right there.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So his guitar drops out, then he comes back in with that little tappy thing.
Yeah, a little tappy tap-taparoo. See, I did my homework.
And of course, there's a bit more after that. But man, that is cathartic. What a way to end a record.
Mm-hmm.
And just let us have it for the last 30 seconds or so. That wraps the album up in a bow for me, but it also obviously wraps this track up for me in such a satisfying way because it started with such promise and they delivered on it.
I'm glad I chose this song.
So Frankie, you wanted to hear the catharsis, and so what is to wrap the music part of this up? What does it say to you, buddy?
They wanted to end the album on a very powerful note, just to restate, I guess, one last time what a great band they were.
In case you forgot, we can bring it when we want to. Maybe the statement. I don't know. Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I think last week you said that I didn't know that Claypool does all of his lyrics or his vocal recordings like by himself. Yeah. Like nobody knew what he was kind of doing. Like the lyrics in this are very much kind of in tune with what was, like you said, like what was going on. Very much anti-war. I mean, we've been hearing that since like Too Many Puppies era. And there was just one line that I was like, what the hell? Like, we're down a couple quarts of oil. The president's reacting like an old nearsighted mohel. And I was like, who's going to get that? I get it. I lived in Brooklyn. I get it.
Yeah. I had to look that up. Back in the day, I'm a Gentile, and I was shocked at what it was. Not like shocked, offended, but I just thought, oh, that's brilliant. You know, like what a great.
I mean, you can only rhyme so many things with oil until you get to mohel. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's the rabbi that performs the circumcision. But I lived like at the Hasidic part of Brooklyn, and when they did that, they would suck it out with their mouth. Mm-hmm. That was after the circumcision, and there was a bunch of babies that were like dying of herpes here so they had to stop this. They've been trying really hard to like stop this ritual that's been going on, and that was where I first heard of the term mohel. So there you go, kids. But I was like, it's just leave it to Claypool to like put that in an otherwise really like a dark song, but it kind of like just shows his humor. Like, and that's so many Primus lyrics. It's just like there's dark humor there. There's a little bit of hope, and the rest, it serves the song. Like the lyrics are just one aspect of the song. It doesn't, he never said he was a great singer. He's so self-deprecating. Every time he like had to sing a Rush song, or when they started the Frog Brigade for Pink Floyd, he's like, I'm not even close to being as good as these other guys who sang it, but if you like it, you like it.
Yeah, I always appreciated the mohel because there's plenty of other rhymes. There's, he's got boil and oil. There's a lot more choices, but he reached for mohel, and it seems to fit as far as that description of the president, based on what he sets up. So it logically follows. How did he even stumble upon that word? Good for him. You know,
I think you reverse engineer it. You're like, you find out what a mohel is. And you're like, I got to put this in. What oh, well, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, just to run down these lyrics, the verses have an AABA rhyme scheme, and Les kind of goes for some lofty rhetoric, commenting on Jesus looking at what he hath wrought, or what people hath wrought in his name, I suppose, and he doesn't like it, and he says, I'm out of here. Packing the golf clubs I thought was pretty funny, and then Jesus saying, to hell with this, always gave me a giggle. The all-knowing wanted ignorance. And then to pair that with Billy, and I assume it's the same Billy from Big Eyeball in the Sky that Les brings back, that Billy's off to war, we're down the oil, all that good stuff. Billy, by the way, might be from Bend, Oregon, or, because it was 20 years ago, because he's marching from the video store. The world's last blockbuster video, by the way, is in Bend, Oregon.
One of my first jobs, by the way.
Oh, congratulations.
It's in high school.
This could have been you.
I probably listened to the Brown album on my way to my shift at Blockbuster.
Oh, you were doing it right. Absolutely. Yeah, so Billy's off to war. We're down some oil. He's once again kind of recapping this situation that he finds objectionable, and many did. And he's making those connections. And this is like the third or fourth time on the record he makes these references. So, but even so, I'm not tired of it, because this song is so compelling in so many ways. And just that refrain of ignorance is bliss is great. That sung part, I really love how he sings that last part. I'll see you on the other side. I forget, heads imploding from that pride, that willful ignorance that people really are so proud of. It's baffling, that people wear that like some kind of badge of honor.
The willful ignorance, but also like it's the apathy, and it's the feature, not a flaw. Like they want the other side to just be apathetic and think that they can't change anything, and that's just what we're living in now. This is pretty apropos for then and now.
Kind of the evolution of this. We want to actually pummel the other side into submission or just a defeatist attitude and break them. It's obviously it's horrendous. But we're gonna solve all the world's problems.
Right? I like this feel-good podcast you two have started.
So your flame went out, and when your flame behind you went out, I lost all
hope. I
told
you it wasn't gonna last.
And so so now I'm talking about man's ruin. Yeah, it was
the burning optimism is extinguished back there.
Pete's eternal flame has been extinguished.
If y'all are on a Patreon, you have no idea what we're talking about.
If you want your opinion read right here on the podcast, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Primus Tracks. Pete knows exactly what I'm talking about.
You could just wait 10 months like I did.
That's all you got to do. Just wait for the free version. The universal constant over there is I'll put up a thread about the tune-up for discussion, and you drop your thoughts there, and I'm gonna read them, and I'm gonna read them right now. Anthony Del Preet, go Bills, said, this is a great closer. Sounds like one of the more structured tunes on the album upon re-listening. I hear a touch of foreshadowing on how Les treated the upright bass here with Jilly's on smack. That's an interesting comparison. Also, Bucket seems to finally cut loose again like he did on the opening track, and goes all Buckethead on us. Love the frenetic energy during the crazy jam, just after the 3-minute mark as well. Anthony this time gave us the Cliff Notes version of our commentary, so we can close it up. We're done. Mickey Waters says, I always loved this song. It's surprising to me that it's only 2 verses. The way Les packs so many words in them, it seems like way more. The music is cinematic and tense, and that ending so chaotic. Nice. Johnny Perona says, rippin' track. I'd go so far as saying it's my second favorite Claypool song performed on the upright. The delay he puts on it, coupled with the bow strokes, creates such a satisfying tone. Big shout out to Brain and Bernie for the outro jam. I wanted to ask you about that tone, Pete, because it's very mid-rangey, but I love it.
Yeah, so I like hang out. I plant my beach chair in the mid-range. Like that's what I like, because my bass is 8 strings. I can show you real quick. You can't hear it, but like, so my bass is full 8 string. So the middle 4 strings are like what you would normally have on a bass. So when Claypool plays, he plays 6.
Yeah.
For at least for this song, and his tone is pretty much like around this time, he had so much envelope filter. It's like he discovered this pedal, and he's like, oh well. And then I think the pedal broke, so it was just on all the time, no matter how many times he clicked it to click it off. It was just on. So he has a slight overdrive on here, and he has his delay kind of at 12 o'clock, and that's the amount of like time. And then the envelope filter, and I kind of like matched it as much as I could.
Okay.
And that's really just for the bowed parts, and then for the rest of the part, it's pretty clean, but as you said, really mid-rangey. And you need that, like, because normally you don't slap on a fretless bass, but he is doing it in this situation. Just motherfucker's got a whammy bar in his bass. Like, he's not listening to anybody's, what you can and can't do on a bass.
That's right. Yeah, he's gonna do what he does.
Yep.
A couple more here. Eric in Australia says, ignorance is bliss. I know Les has always used his voice to highlight ills, but it must get pretty fucking wearing. He didn't dish out Trump content like he did in the Bush era. Musically, it's fine. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, well, that's why I always thought about Rage Against the Machine. I was like, you guys, like, you quit as soon as Obama got in office? Like, don your capes, guys. Like, where have you been?
Maybe they just got their point across and they're happy with what they've accomplished.
Yep. They solved democracy.
They said
it's all good now.
We took care of it. 2008.
Frankie's in Mexico City. You don't have to worry about this. We're burning here.
Brooks, what you gonna do about it? Delight says, the perfect selection to end the album. I always laugh at the image I get in my head of Jesus standing at the front door with his golf clubs slung over his shoulder and a scowl on his face. Always enjoyed this one all around. I was lucky enough to hear it live the one time that I saw the band in Royal Oak, Michigan.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's one of the places they played it.
Brooks, you lucky delight.
Did you guys see this band?
I never got to see him.
I'm not sure if I did. I asked my friends. Yeah. We have a group thread, and half of us are like, we definitely saw that show at I guess it was the Electric Factory then, the Philly show. But we're not sure if it was this or the Frog Brigade. Okay. So 4 people are like, we definitely saw him, and 4 people are like, that wasn't the same show. So
not sure.
Jury's out. I don't know if I saw this band.
Frankie was an infant when this came out, so
no excuse, Frankie. Get off your zygote ass and go see this cool band.
Yeah, I was slacking.
Our last Primate take is probably my favorite, from John Shreve, who says, this is a great song for staring at a lava lamp.
Okay. He's not wrong.
I'll take it.
Totally factual.
At least he didn't say this is a great song for being a mohel. So
that's true.
He might have.
I don't know if you'd be allowed to listen to this if you're a mohel.
John might have revealed more about himself than he wanted to with that kind of statement. It's time for live cuts, Frankie. Should I play the live cut song for Peat?
I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this live performance.
Okay.
I'm going to play the live cuts jingle just for you, Peat. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts.
It's
the jam vehicle. Live cuts.
It's so long.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. A true jam vehicle. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
I think that's my favorite part about it, is it's 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm cutting it off. I'll put the whole thing.
Don't. Let's listen to it.
No, the moment's gone.
It would cost $5 million if you played it at the Super Bowl, just so you know that amount of time.
I'm patrons. What do you think?
That's what your patrons get your shit together.
What do you think? I'm socking away these pennies. Our first live cut is from Royal Oak. This is the show Brooks attended, and he saw this tune. Lucky guy.
It's just Brooks humming it from memory, I think, if that's what you're going to show us.
I really hope it's an audience recording, and Brooks is on there just screaming over all the music. Ignorance is I like that tempo.
Yeah.
So he's using the bullet mic there, which he doesn't on the record, and he's also kind of doing this warble thing with his voice.
It's a little speedy, It's definitely, when you play live, you jack everything up about 5 to 10 BPM. So I like that.
And everybody will tell you that it's Brain. Brain's always pushing tempo. So
a drummer fucking up the beat and making it faster. Wow.
Imagine. If you will. I know out there in New York it's different, but here on the West Coast.
It's like that everywhere.
I know. I love Brain pushing that tempo. It sounds great. Let's forward a little bit and hear a bit more of this performance.
I'm glad there's a live version of this, because I kept trying to find one. I kept trying to find a cover. Nobody did a cover. There's one dude that did a short on YouTube that was a cover, and that's it. Okay. So like, for whatever reason, this song is just definitely not. I don't know. It's just not showcased all that much, and it's such a good song. Yeah. So underrated, I guess you would say.
Yes, definitely needs more YouTube covers. There's tons of Jerry's and Tommy's and what have you. So I would vote for more of these.
Yeah, my God. I mean, can we not cover Fire and Rain anymore? Can we just try some Claypool stuff, please? Thanks.
Our other live performance is, where's this one from, Frankie? You didn't put any metadata on it.
Well, there's only 3 places it could be.
What are the other 2? I forget. I'm just guessing.
Asheville?
It says Bernie Selections, so you tell me.
Yeah, could be either of the other 2.
From a mystery location is our last live cut here. They're burning the house down at that point.
I did notice that, like, when this was in the set list, they didn't play it last. This was kind of like 2/3 of the way through, at least from the 2 or 3 times I saw it that it was listed, which is, like, you have such a great song that is a good finale, like good finale for the whole set, but you choose not to end the set with it. And that's just subverting expectations, which again, I like.
So I suppose I can say this, Frankie. Ignorance is Bliss. And The Big Eyeball in the Sky, the album. You've been tracked.
Whoa. I'm here for it.
It's official. We did it.
It's a pleasure to be in the Matrix.
Pete, thanks so much for joining us and waiting patiently. You were in the Zoom waiting room for almost a year. I don't know how you did it.
Sure. I sure have to pee so bad.
Where can the good people find you on the social medias?
You can find Bred Raptors, my band. That's Bred Raptors with a question mark. We're going back out on the road in April. We're working on some new material. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube and Instagram. And we've been locked out of our MySpace since 2011, so probably not up to date on that.
That's where I get all my information.
You can also check me out. I have a podcast as well, which is like, we should get you both on because it's equally stupid and nerdy. It's called Surf Dudes with Attitude, and we analyze each episode of the TV show California Dreams from a musical industry angle. So this is it's a show that came on after Saved by the Bell about a high school band.
Yeah.
So in the 90s, only the most topical shit that I will talk about. So that you're
equating that to this? That's incredible.
It's both in California. It's around the same time.
I love Saved by the Bell, by the way.
Oh, well, then you would love this show. It's called Surf Dudes with Attitude. So that's we just finished our second season. We've actually had actors on from the show, and they're like, "Do you guys even like us?" I don't understand what I'm doing on this show because like we're constantly making fun of it, but like we do it out of love.
Yeah.
But we get other musicians on, and we ask them about this high school band and what their decisions are, and then we try to dissect it a little. So you can find me there, surfdudeswithattitude.com or youbredraptors.com. And I want to thank you guys for having me on. Happy fucking New Year. And I'm really glad I got to be here for you closing out and tracking this album, man.
It was a blast to have you, pal. I'm definitely going to check out Surf Dudes.
I would love to have you on because it's dumb.
I am tickled at the prospect of hearing it and possibly talking about it.
You say that until you have to watch a whole 22-minute episode, and then you're stuck.
I mean, I've definitely tortured myself with some bad TV over the years. I think this is my calling. I think I'm ready for it.
We can smell our own, so we'll definitely have you on this season.
Right on, man. Refill that flame and keep it burning for me. I appreciate
the flame
it.
Inside all of us is what he's talking about.
Right.
Thank you, patrons, for being able to look at us. The pleasure's all on this side of the table. Thank you for having me. Let's do this again sometime.
You bet. Thanks a lot, man. Frankie, next time, I have no idea what we're doing. So
yeah, you guys taking a break or what?
It's a surprise for all. Can't wait. Can't wait to find out what we do next time.
You should have done that before the new year if you're really planning properly, but that's just me.
I certainly wish I had done it that way, and I didn't. And I must live with it. Later days.
Willie Mays.
Bye-bye.